All right, today we are cracking open one of the most influential and honestly controversial finance books ever written, Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Our goal here is to really boil down its biggest ideas into something you can actually use. So let's just dive right in.
So right off the bat, the book hits you with this concept of the rat race. You know what I'm talking about, right? That feeling of being on a hamster wheel. You work hard, you get a paycheck, you pay your bills, and then you're right back where you started, waiting for the next paycheck. This entire book is basically a proposed escape plan from that exact cycle. Now, the way the book teaches its lessons is really through a story about two father figures. You've got the poor dad, who is his real, highly educated father, and the rich dad, who is his best friend's father, a street-smart entrepreneur. And their ideas about money couldn't have been more different. They were literally worlds apart. And this is where the core conflict of the book really comes into focus. Poor dad's advice was probably what most of us heard growing up. Go to school, get good grades, find a safe, secure job, and save your money. But rich dad's advice, it was the complete opposite. He said, don't work for money, learn how to make money work for you. And that one single shift in perspective is the key that unlocks everything else we're going to talk about.
Okay, so how in the world do you make money work for you? Well, it all starts with understanding one incredibly simple yet powerful distinction. And honestly, if you only take one thing away from this book, this is it. It's the difference between an asset and a liability.
This quote just cuts right to the heart of it, doesn't it? The book argues that your financial situation has less to do with how much you earn and everything to do with what you buy with the money you have. The biggest trap, it says, is buying things that cost you money while believing they're making you money. So what's an asset, according to Rich Dad? It's ridiculously simple. Forget all the complicated financial jargon. If something puts money into your pocket month after month without you having to work for it, it's an asset. That's the entire definition.
So what are we talking about here? Well, think of things like a rental property that brings in rent checks every month, or stocks that pay out dividends. Maybe it's a business, like a laundromat, that can run without you being there 24/7. These are the kinds of things that are true income-generating engines.
And then, of course, you've got the other side of the coin, liabilities. Using that exact same simple logic, if it consistently takes money out of your pocket, it's a liability. Simple as that. Now, this is where the book really starts to shake things up for a lot of people. Things like your mortgage, your car payment, your credit card debt, all liabilities, because they do nothing but drain cash from your account every single month. And yes, the book famously argues that your own home, the place you live, which most people see as their greatest asset, is actually their single biggest liability. It's a pretty radical idea. Okay, so you get the difference between an asset and a liability. Great. But what do you actually do with that information? Well, the book lays out a pretty clear action plan, and it all starts with this one phrase: mind your own business. Now, minding your own business doesn't mean quitting your job to start a company. Not at all. It means your job is your profession, but your business is your asset column. The idea is to use your paycheck from your job to buy assets. Then, the money those assets make is used to buy, you guessed it, even more assets. It creates this amazing snowball effect that just grows over time. The second big strategy is this game-changing habit called pay yourself first. See, most people get paid, then they pay all their bills, and then they try to save whatever's left over, which is usually, not much. This flips that whole script. You take a portion for your assets first the moment you get paid. You pay yourself before you pay anyone else. The book argues that the pressure of having bills due can actually be a huge motivator to go out and find new ways to make more money.
So the strategies themselves, they're actually pretty straightforward, but the book makes it super clear that the real battle isn't financial, it's mental. It's all about mastering your internal game.
And this really gets to the core of it: fear. Let's be honest, everyone is afraid of losing money. That's just human. But the difference, the book says, is in how you react to that fear. For most people, fear leads to playing it safe, to doing nothing. But for the wealthy, that same fear becomes a reason to get smarter, to learn more, and to take smart, calculated risks instead of just running away. According to the book, these are the three big mental roadblocks that stop almost everyone. You've got fear, which paralyzes you. You've got cynicism, that little voice that says, that'll never work for me. And you've got just plain old laziness and bad habits. The book is pretty blunt. Overcoming these isn't optional if you want to build wealth.
So what's the ultimate weapon against all these mental roadblocks? It's financial education. This is maybe the book's biggest message of all.
The absolute best investment you can ever make is in your own financial intelligence, because your mind is the tool that you use to build everything else.
Of course, you absolutely cannot have a conversation about Rich Dad, Poor Dad without talking about the controversy that surrounds it. To really understand the book's impact, you have to look at the criticisms too. So, let's get into it.
You know, this book is one of those things people either seem to love or hate. Supporters will tell you it's brilliant because it makes complex ideas about money feel simple and accessible. They love the focus on mindset. But the critics? They bring up some really valid points. They say it oversimplifies things, that it doesn't give you concrete step-by-step advice, and maybe most importantly, that it completely ignores the real-world systemic barriers that keep people from building wealth.
And a lot of that controversy centers on the author himself, Robert Kiyosaki. I mean, he built this massive financial education empire, but he's also faced some serious legal issues. One of his companies filed for bankruptcy, and just recently in 2024, he announced he was over $1 billion in debt. You have to admit, those facts definitely complicate his image as a financial guru.
So where does all this leave us? Well, regardless of the valid criticisms or the controversies, the book's lasting legacy seems to be its role as a catalyst. For millions of people, this was the very first time they were ever challenged to question that traditional life script of go to school, get a job, save money, and retire. So its real value might not be in the specific advice, but in its power to just spark a totally different way of thinking about money.
And that brings us full circle right back to the book's central message and our final question for you. If Rich Dad, Poor Dad is right, what's the very first, most important asset you need to build? The answer isn't a stock, it's not a house, it's not a business. It's the engine that's going to find and manage all those other assets, your own financial knowledge. Thanks so much for watching.